and gentlemen, and welcome to Silicon Valley Virtual Reality Meetup number 17! We're going to get right into it. We're going to start with Innerspace. I think they're set up and ready to go for their presentation. And they'll be talking about what they're doing. They have done some really cool stuff with immersive experiences in VR. For those of you that have a GearVR, they are the guys behind The Cave and Fifth Sleep, which are very, very cool experiences if you haven't tried them. So excellent. I'm going to go ahead and pass it along to Innerspace, guys. Take it away.
Hi guys. So we're Innerspace. We're a French team that's been developing in VR since 2011, pre-Oculus time, and we are here in California for the first time. So you might know our content already from GearVR, those of you that might have bought it, because we actually worked in South Korea with Samsung to bring these experiences to GearVR. Yeah, if you buy GearVR, you'll have our experiences already preloaded on there, or there's one of them called Playhead that you can download from Oculus Share. So I actually don't have a clicker. All right, so I'm quickly going to go into quickly just the experience that we already have that are out there, just to go over it. The first one is The Cave, which we made. It was an artistic installation that we made for a museum in the center of France. It takes you back 40,000 years ago into prehistoric France, and it's a 4-minute video that's just a passive experience because it's mobile VR, but it's very engaging. Then we have The Fifth Sleep, which is kind of our flagship project, which you saw a little bit of on there. It has the red blood cells, and it takes you through the stories that you are injected inside the brain of a man through a capsule, and you're supposed to wake him up from his feedback. You're supposed to wake him up from his coma, but he doesn't want to be woken up, and while you're inside of his brain, he takes you into his dream and tries to explain to you why he doesn't want to be woken up. And ideally, we'll make a game where you will have the choice to wake him up or not, depending on what he tells you. And then our third experience is actually, it was a dive into a deeper interactivity for us. It's a musical game, that lasts like 10-15 minutes. This one is the one you have to download through the Auxietre store. And yeah, it's a real-time experience as opposed to the other one that are filmed, rendered environments. So our company has two credos that are very important to us. The first one is that everything we make is built entirely for VR in mind. That means the cinematographic design, we're going to reinvent the technology from scratch, from the beginning. And even the storytelling is going to be redesigned so that it just works better in VR. Then, yeah, we're dedicated to artistic and narrative content. That means that we're not going to do simulation, we're not going to do FPS shooter, we're going to do things that we feel very strongly about. And Balthazar here is the CEO and creative director, and he comes from a cinematic background and has already made a bunch of very deep emotional content. So initially, our experiences were built for DK1 with a degree of interaction. But in early 2014, we traveled to South Korea where we met Auxietre. Most people don't even know they have an office over there. And they introduced us to Samsung, and it was at the beginning of development of GearVR. At the time, it was called Project Moonlight. At first, we weren't very excited to move into the mobile VR world just because we would have to sacrifice interaction. But for those of you who have tried the GearVR, it's actually a very, very nice piece of hardware, and it makes mobile VR that much more powerful. So we started moving into mobile VR, and the more we worked on it, the happier we became, and now we can't imagine doing without it. So the more we use it, the more advantages of mobile became obvious to us and indispensable in a way. Today we can't imagine working without it. Being able to take VR to the people instead of bringing people to VR, the simple fact that you have to bring somebody into your living room or you can bring the VR to them is a huge distinction when trying to show people VR. It lowers their expectation in a way that it's just, oh, it's just this simple. I'm sure a lot of you have already done this if you've had, you know, Google Cardboard or other mobile VR devices. We can now show our content anywhere, anytime with just one button. We just load up the demo and it works. Our switch to 360 video format let us spread our content to so much more hardware as well. We have the GearVR, but our videos can technically work on Dojo case, you know, any mobile that can do it, and it can even work on the Auxietre development kit. So we do. You might have noticed something from what we showed earlier. Everything in there was pre-rendered graphics. And there's reasons for that. Why haven't we done live action movies like GearVR and so many others have? Well, first of all, the hardware just isn't ready enough for us yet. There's still a lot of problems with stitching algorithm, and the cameras are either expensive or bulky, or they're just not good enough. They will be in the future, but for now they're not good enough. Then there's very significant limitations to filming in 360. You have to hide the crew. There's less room for experimentation, and locomotion is a huge headache. If you've seen 360 videos, most of the time it's on a helicopter, it's on a boat, it's in a car, or it's static. But it's rarely moving with like a trolley or something like that because you have to hide the thing, and it's a huge pain. Yes. But so, since we're not doing live action, why don't we do, you know, high polygon count, CG with Maya and things like that. So it's another headache. Just because, you know, DreamWorks, when they make movies and stuff like that, they use render farms that are immensely expensive. And because there's no consumer market out there right now for VR apart from us, we can't justify having that kind of cost. So making a pre-rendered game and then filming it with virtual cameras is the only logical way to shoot animated content for now. But then there's actually something else that's interesting in there, that's the portability. Because we basically make a video game and then film it, we can actually focus on making a video game that is just easy to adapt into a mobile version, and then we will have both a video game that we can make and sell, but although technically for now not sell, but give as a video game with choices and experience and directions that you can take inside the storyline and port it to mobile VR, and it's just, it takes weeks for us to do that. And we can reach everybody in the VR world. And that, in the end, all of our choices were chosen to enable the maximum amount of creativity and flexibility. By starting really from scratch, we rebuild and discover storytelling techniques that could change the way we see storytelling inside of this medium. So the press pretty often has mentioned that this might be the end of cinema as we know it, just because it's, it's such an immersive and such a powerful way of giving content. But we don't like to think about it that way. Just like the cinema was an evolution of theater and photography put together, it didn't kill off theater and it didn't kill off photography. It just became this hybrid content that we all now know and are very used to as cinema. VR is kind of the same way. We have video games on one side and cinema expertise on the other, and we gotta fuse them together, but it's not gonna kill off either one, and it needs its own techniques, it needs its own way of being made. And that's it. Yeah, so we're in Innerspace, and we have a couple announcements to make. One is that for the few fans that we have in the room that know us, we're actually going to be releasing the Fifth Sleep long version, 11 minutes long, pretty soon, and that we're working on a full, around an hour and a half, full feature movie that will be released in episodic episodes of about 10-20 minutes, and it should be released around the end of this year. And that's it.
All right. Wow.
Questions?
All right, yeah. Let's do one or two questions from the audience. We won't do too much of the time, but let's have a couple questions. Sure.
Yeah. What engine are you using? What are you using? It's an engine.
Engine-wise, all right. So the Fifth Sleep and the Cave were using CryEngine, and Playhead is on Unity. We're moving away from CryEngine, though we're probably going to be using, for all of our content, Unreal is what we're looking at. Anybody else?
Have you figured out how to determine what to charge with your content? Like how much is the Fifth Sleep versus Playhead?
Thank you, Chris, for that question. I always like that question. We don't know. So much of that is up to pretty much you guys. What are you willing to pay? And the standards of pricing are going to evolve. The fact that our share right now hasn't been monetized yet means that we can't even charge somebody if we wanted to. And our contract with Samsung doesn't let us do that either. But the future, I said that, but we don't have a contract for the future content with Samsung. Don't worry about that. But we don't know. Basically, depending on what is going to evolve out of the industry will be what we'll charge for it. We're kind of blind on that side for now. Last question. One more.
One more. Going once. Going once.
And then we have two.
What kind of applications can you see outside of gaming with VR?
That's a big question. Okay, me personally, that's a huge question. But me personally, I see huge potential in training applications of everyday stuff. I mean, a crane operator can be taught how to use a crane without having to go up 200 freaking steps and destroying half the city in the process. And I think that applies to almost, any job that you would need any kind of technical expertise that might seem ridiculous for now, but you could save time and cost on them from having something like that. Then there's endless creative application. We could very well, like, I'm gonna do an advertisement for my competitor, but it's fine. Kite and Lightning, they did Senza Peso, and just like every movie doesn't compete with each other, as long as you have a different artistic mind, you can make different artistic content. And eventually, we might be one of the first and one of the kind of pioneer animators out there that make animated rendered content. But eventually, zero doubt that there's going to be many of us making lots of different storylines, lots of different content, and it will be just as varied as the people's minds are. I think that answers it pretty good.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.